All right, welcome back. Going to do another quick video, and this one is going to be on cash return. A really simple kind of bird's eye view of what cash on cash return is and how it's a very powerful metric for real estate investors. Okay, so let's dive right in. As you can see, don't need a whole lot to do this. All you would really need is the amount of your down payment. That's how much cash you're putting into the deal. Your net operating income and the price that you want to pay for the property, the price that they're asking for. Sometimes they're the same thing. So in this case, I've kind of fixed the down payment at 25%. Now, not every deal is going to be 25% down, but if it's a larger building, like we're talking investment properties here, it's probably going to be closer to 25%. For triplexes, you might get about 10%. If you're living in it yourself. Duplexes, you can get as low as 5% if you're living in it yourself. But for this example, these are bigger buildings. We're going to go with a 25% down. That means that 75% will be mortgaged, right? Because if 25% is paid down, the other 3/4 of the balance will be paid later, and you'll be paying interest on that. So that's the interest of the cash on cash. So what does cash on cash really represent? It's how much money is left over after operating expenses, like that would be NOI. So in this case, the NOI is $44,324. And we know the price, that's $549, but we didn't pay $549 to get the deal. We only paid 25% of that. In this case, 109,800. So this is the amount that we use in cash on cash. And this is why a cash on cash return will most of the time be quite favorable as compared to a cap rate. Because cap rate assumes that you don't owe anything on the building. With cash on cash, all that we're putting in is this 25%. So it usually looks quite a bit better on paper than a cap rate. So what we need to figure out is we have our net operating expenses, but there's also financing that has to be taken off before we can get to our cash on cash. So I've taken the liberty of written down these numbers in advance, and these are not going to be true because a mortgage is actually quite complicated in the way that it's paid off. But kind of a quick way that I've figured works for me and gives me rough numbers is just taking the interest rate. In this case, I've used 2% financing, taking the interest rate, multiplying that on what is still owed on the property. So in this case, the asking price is $549. We owe 75% of that, so 0.75 times $549. And that's multiplied by the interest rate that we owe. And this will give the interest portion of the mortgage payment. So what you need to understand is in a mortgage payment, there's two halves. Half of it is the interest, and the other half is principal. Principal being actual money. Principal. Interest and principal. Those are the two halves of a mortgage payment. So first we're going to figure out the interest. The interest, and again, this is not going to be true to the real world because mortgages are very complicated, but this is a quick way that you can calculate, rough cash on cash return without actually using a calculator. You can just use kind of your whiteboard like I am here. So if we take this 0.2, we're going to ignore that for now. We're just going to do 3/4 or 0.75 of 549 will give us 439,200. So 439,200 is what's left over that we have not paid in a down payment times the interest rate, because we have to pay interest on what we owe, and that's 2% interest rate. That will give us 732 if you plug that into a calculator. So this is just the interest portion. So next we're going to calculate the principal portion, and this is where, accountants are going to get mad at me, but again, this is just to give you a rough idea. We've assumed a 25-year mortgage. That's typical in the real estate space. 25 years times 12 months, because typically these things are paid monthly, is 300. So this is the number of terms that we're using. So what do we do with this? So we take the total amount here that's owed, and that's $439,200. And all we do is divide it by 300. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm saying, if I paid the same amount every month for 300 months, how long would it take? Or for 300 months, how much would that payment be? If I want to pay this off in 25 years, what's the payment? And in this case, it's $1,464. I should probably do that. $1,464. So essentially all I've done for this cash on cash kind of example is taken $1,464 and $732, added them together to get $2,196, right? But something might not seem right. We have our operating expense, 44324, operating income, minus 2,000. That seems very low, and that's because this is a monthly fee. And we could take out a step, get rid of the monthly here and just do annually, but I think this is fine. It's just an extra step. So let's insert this quickly. That 2196, I didn't actually write this one down. 2196 times 12, we get 26,532, 352, 352, and that would be this right here. So let's bring it over here and clean it up. So 44324 minus 26352. And that will all be over our down payment. It'll all be over our down payment. So again, this formula, because it's kind of getting messed up, I'll write it over here. The formula is net operating income minus finance cost over down payment. Over a down payment. And we're not accounting for closing fees and things like that in this. It's just a down payment we're using. We can get much more complicated. So let's do a quick number on this. 44324 minus 26352. That gives us 17,972. And again, that's over 109,800, which is our down payment. So if we do that, 109,800, we get 16.36%. And your calculator might say 0.1636, and that's right. That's what it should say. But I'm just moving over the decimal place 2 spaces to make it into a percent. You can watch some of my other videos for an explanation on that. But cash on cash return is typically not expressed as a ratio. This would be a ratio or a fraction. It's expressed as a percent. So in this case, our final answer is 16.36%. And again, this is not exact because if you plug it into a mortgage calculator, it's going to be a little bit different. It will actually be a little bit higher, but this gives you a lowball estimate. And again, all we have to know to calculate this, what down payment we're paying, what our interest rate is, what the term of the mortgage is, what our price we're paying, and the net operating income. And that will get us to what we want, which is our cash on cash return. So what does that actually mean? 16.36. This is telling us what the yield on our money is. The money that we've put into the deal, how much are we getting of that money back each year? In this case, we're getting back 16.3% of that money back each year. And that's in addition to what's already in the deal, what we've paid a down payment. We get to keep the down payment. That's still our money. But we also get 16.36% in cash. Now there's other rates of return that include things like the principal. Because if you remember, we're paying $2,000 per month in principal. That money does not go to the bank. That money goes to us. It's just being held by the bank. So when we refinance or when we buy or when we sell the property, that money will be taken out and that's ours to keep. But this is just a cash on cash return. This is how much per month in dollar bills is going to be coming into your account each month. Just a rough estimate. Okay, so let's go on to our second example now that we kind of understand the whole process, even though I'm going to have to do a few calculations on the way. Hopefully this one will be quicker. Okay, so first we got to get to our payments because we know the net operating income. We just need to know how much per month or per year we're going to be paying financing, right? Because it's NOI minus financing cost over our down payment. That's what we're doing today. This is like a very rough cash on cash return, kind of give you an idea what's going on. Okay, so let's figure that out. So it's $1 million property. It's got a $75,000 NOI. Not looking super good right off the bat, but let's take a look at it and see what it can give us. Okay, so if we're doing 25, we'll do the same as before. So if we're doing 25% down, that means we could do the math very easily. We have $250,000 down payment. This shouldn't really be equals because this is a totally different thing. $250,000 down, that means $750,000 is financed. Okay, so again, just two parts. There's interest, there's principal. Let's do interest first. At 2% interest, which is typical right now, sometimes you can get even a little bit lower. 2% interest, actually I already have this written down, of $750, $1,667. $1,667 per month in interest payments. Now let's talk about principal. Principal, again, it's the $750, and we divide that by 300 because it's a 25-year mortgage. 25 down, 25-year mortgage. That's the numbers we're using here. And that will give you $2,500. So when you add these two together, I've already written down, you get $41.67. That's your financing cost per month. Okay? So let's go back up here. We have our NOI, I'm going to write it out the formula again. NOI minus financing cost over down payment equals $75,000 minus $41.67. But remember, this is per month, so we're going to multiply that by 12. Let's do that. $41.67 times 12. So we get 50. I'm just going to bring this down here. 50, almost right on. 50,004. That's a rounding error. It would be 50 exactly, but that's what we get this time. And then that's going to be over a down payment, which in this case is $250,000. Again, I said this is an example. It's just an example, but this isn't a great property just off the get-go in terms of return. So let's run the numbers on this one. So we got $75,000 net operating income minus $50,000 in financing. We're only left over with $24,996, which sounds exactly right because it would be 25 roughly, and that's over $250,000. So those of you that are pretty good at mental math, you can see that this is just about 10%. We'll get an exact number here. Yeah, it's 0.0999. That's what came out of the calculator, but we always, or at least I always, express cash on cash as a percent, not as a ratio or as a fraction. So that's a 9.9%. So what does that mean? That means of your $250,000 cash that you invested in the deal, each year in cash, you'll receive back roughly 10% of that. That's all that means. Cash on cash is very simple. So when people say, I love cash flow, I want a property with lots of cash flow, this is what they mean. 10% for one person might seem like a lot, or in this case, 16% is for some people might be a lot. I've seen properties go as high as 50% cash on cash return, but that would be with a lower down payment, right? Because, this is kind of a mess, but let me write it up here. If this is big and this is small, this is your cash coming in, this is your down payment that you've paid, then the fraction will be small. But if it's inverted, if your down payment is small and your cash flow is large, then the cash on cash will be very large. That's just a quick and dirty intro to cash on cash. Hopefully this helps you guys on your journey to figuring out kind of how to calculate a cash on cash. And I invite you to Google or ask us at the brokerage for our mortgage calculator. It will give you more of an exact calculation. This is the one that the banks use. It's the same formula. But this is just quick and dirty. It will not give you the exact numbers because mortgages are complicated. Okay, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that one, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day.